Are you working full-time or partly remote in your team? So you probably know that team dynamics changed over time. Tuckman is giving us the model of 5 phases of teamwork, which are describing how the team dynamics can change during the time. And I adapted this model to be suitable for remote teams, and this helps us to find the 5 steps of remote team building. My name is Jana Pieske, and I'm a coach for remote and hybrid working teams, and the founder of Fairlinked. Fairlinked is an institution which helps companies and NGOs on their way to digitalize their collaboration and their teamwork. So I'm doing that because people who are working remotely or hybrid have the same need of social interaction and close collaboration like any other team. But the difference is that team building and social interaction is not just happening that automatically as we're used to it from the offline world. Online team building requires dedication and a proactive leader to support your team during the whole process. But how can you support them best? There, the 5 steps of remote team building can help you to provide them with the exact support which is needed during the different phases of a team. So the first phase is the forming phase. In this phase, you will find your team just at the beginning of any new project. So once you form a new project team or new members join an existing team, your team finds themselves in this forming phase. In this forming phase, you have a group of individuals on the journey to find their role. So they're exploring what role they take on in this group and how they want to work together. What characters are there, what skills are there, and how do they want to fit in. Remote, it is especially difficult to talk to strangers, to get a conversation started and get to know one another. So I think you know that. To start a conversation with a person you don't know, online is especially difficult. And if there's no need to communicate with a video call, maybe you will not even ask for it. And also to have the general overview of tools, tasks, processes, and maybe the organization as such and who to talk to about what. This is super difficult if you're just having an online or remote or a hybrid onboarding. So your role is to facilitate the first step for them. You are the facilitator. So this includes that you are laying the ground rules for the first communication and collaboration, that you provide them with an infrastructure and how they can work together. Furthermore, you give them the orientation about the organization and the project goals, and also you open the stage for breaking the ice and getting to know one another so that strangers can turn into teammates. Once you have managed this phase, your team might move into the storming phase. Because, as I've said before, you have set the ground rules of communication and collaboration, maybe even without knowing what are the needs, habits, and ways of communicating for your team. Maybe you haven't worked with all of the team members. Maybe there are some people totally new, and also every team has new rules, has developed different habits and different strategies of communication. So those different needs, habits, and ideas, they create conflicts and differences, and this is super great for you to work on with them now because people have different needs, habits, and ideas about collaboration, and it's just natural that this comes up because you have set the ground rules and not your team. So in this phase, your team discusses their differences and similarities and how they want to work together. So remote, it is especially difficult to identify when they're entering this phase, because conflicts and discussions are often hidden and not so easy for you to identify. But your role is here to act as a mediator and to invite your team to go on the meta level and to discuss the way how the collaboration and communication should look like in this team. Once you have managed the storming phase, you have identified with your team their common ground rules of communication and collaboration, and now it is on you to support them to put them into practice. So now in the norming phase, your team develops their own collaboration culture. Because in this phase, your team is norming their work, is adapting to the ground rules which you just have decided on in the storming phase. Now they're changing the rules which you have set at the beginning to the rules which they need for themselves. Remote, it is especially difficult to establish new routines as your team members work often asynchronous or quite independently, and so a new routine requires more effort to be established during remote or hybrid working structures. So your role is to assist them here in implementing and following the collaboration rules to develop a team culture. Once you have done that, you can earn the fruits of your work. Welcome to the performing stage. This is the dream of every team leader. You have a goal-oriented team which works efficiently and independently. So they have the goal in mind, they know how to work, they know how to communicate, and everything works smooth. So now the main challenge is your challenge. Because remote, it is especially difficult to trust in your team as you have very, very little insight in the teamwork, and as you are not involved in their day-to-day task and their communication, it is so hard for you to trust and to lean back and to relax. So learn to trust in your team and lean back, because what you don't want to become here is a micromanager. Your role here is to be a mentor. This means that you have to make sure your team knows you're available whenever needed. Don't be too present. Let your team take the decisions, do the work, be independent. Lean back and be available whenever needed. Support them that their work goes on very easy, but you don't have to be there all the time. You have to learn to trust. After every collaboration, there is an end. Teamwork ends. Phases of a team end. This is the adjourning phase. So the adjourning phase is the phase where your team is turning into a group of connected individuals who share a common experience. So every collaboration has an end. In this phase, your team closes a project, some team members might leave, others will start a different project. And so remote, it is especially difficult to define the right moment for the adjourning, as people work in different time zones, have different levels of involvement. Maybe you don't have this real end point of a project. Maybe this is a lot of consecutive tasks, which is very hard to identify where it really ends. So here's your role. Your role is to mark the end of the collaboration somehow and create room to look back, to evaluate the ups and downs, and especially to celebrate the success. This is why I name your role here the event manager. You have to create a day, you have to create the time where people say thank you, where people can look on the ups and downs of their collaboration, where they can celebrate the success. This is something which we don't do often enough in our online work. We have to sit down, look on the things we have achieved, because if we're just looking on to-do lists and we don't see the results, which might be very hard to see from the outside, this is now the point where you identify them, where you look on them, and where you say thank you to your team. So what can we learn from these 5 steps of remote team building? What does this mean for future-oriented companies? Team building becomes explicitly the task of any leader, and buying the best coffee machine or the best coffee is not good enough anymore to create a motivated and good working team. You need to identify the phase your team is in and give them the support needed. This can be hard because here this model shows us like quite a circle, everything smooth, but it can be that teams are jumping backwards and forwards, just jumping around, and your task is to identify in what phase is your team right now and what perspective, what role of you is needed here to support them. I hope you enjoyed this video. I would love to get in contact with you, to talk with you about it, to discuss, and I wish you a lot of fun trying it out. And have a wonderful day.